consider that there is shift work,
Let me tell you, there are people that do not consider that.
overtime and holidays.
Exactly.
It is rough on a family.
Very.
No, I'm
Yeah, and there are people
questioning
that are
that.
That's the part,
facilities.
that's what I
You mean
want.
I have to work on Christmas?
Yeah.
You mean I can't have the day off? No.
Yeah, that's what I want, that's what
Yeah.
I wanna hear, is I have talked to my
There are people out there that-
significant other,
Unfortunately,
Th-
they
and
think that
they
they can just come
understand.
in and
Yeah.
have a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
Holidays
All right,
off,
on to
and no
number
weekends,
14.
and, yeah.
okay, 14.
It's brutal.
It is brutal, and that's the best we can tell them on how brutal it's gonna be. Oh.
I just didn't wanna give the wrong impression here, I guess, on 14, that, where you are the only officer on duty. There'll be times when you are, I mean, if you have day watch, you're actually the chiefest. There's usually 2, except for weekends. So I don't wanna give the impression that every time you work, you'll be the only one.
Mhm.
There may be times when,
I think on my list, that's a different number. I know what question you're talking about though, but,
So, how do you think you can function in an environment where you're the only
oh, there
officer
it
on
is,
duty?
yeah,
Yeah.
okay. I see now, sorry.
I think, again, this is a very important reality check, especially if the lateral is coming from a larger city. We want them to be thinking about, you're the only one out there. And that's going to be, that's the majority of the time.
And
If there's one
technically-
officer.
Yeah, technically, just to be fair, they are the only officer on duty here.
Here,
They do have.
and that's what I wanna hear them
But
say.
they need to realize that.
That's,
yeah,
I
it
wanna
is,
hear
yeah.
them say, well, I know that there's a Freda NSO
Yeah.
a call away,
Right,
but I wanna hear them think that
no,
through.
that's another one of those things.
okay, I'll back off of that one.
And to your point, yes, there is the chief, but that's only for an 8 to 10 hour, 10-hour shift. The rest.
Day watch Monday through Friday.
Exactly, the other 12 hours are, you're it, and they need to have that. And if they're inexperienced, I wanna hear the thought process on, of course, I may not have that opportunity anymore. You can tell I like interviewing.
Okay, well, we got a little,
You got a lot. So let's talk about action items. We'll work from back to forward. Jody, you've heard our input on modifying the questions and giving clarification. I don't think there's any formal action item needed by the commissioners, do you? On that part? Okay. Then working back to the rating guide. Are you ready to put your thoughts into motion on the rating guide?
no, I'm not ready, I'm thinking what I would add, how I would say it. How about you? Do you have anything in mind that might summarize?
Yeah, I
These
liked
changes?
your suggestion, and the tentative conclusion that 0 through 5 rating system, unsatisfactory 0, 5 outstanding, is simpler and addresses your concern that unsatisfactory should be 0. And that has merit,
Okay,
that thought.
capture that, Jody?
I got it.
Got it, okay.
So we have a motion, and I'll second it, to change our application rating guide from a 5 to 10 rating system to a 0 to 5 rating system, 0 applying to unsatisfactory, 10 to outstanding. All in favor?
Which, well, do we need to put in there that that number will then be transcribed
Yeah,
across
I mean,
to
I have it, the notes is that it's
Percentage
weighted,
scale.
yeah,
Yeah.
because it has to be weighted out.
It's gotta be 35 points to get 70.
Right,
Okay,
okay.
that'll be, yeah, okay, you said an aye, and I said an aye, motion carries. Thank you. people get briefed
Yeah.
a little more on those questions. All right, next item C, status of commissioner appointment. We have, in our packet, a letter, what was here? A letter from, former Commissioner Spencer, tendering his resignation, to the, appointing authority. Do we have any insights as to the, status from the appointing authority for the next appointment?
Yeah, he might mention something tomorrow, during the mayor's message on, applicant, like taking an application for, those are the.
He'll put a call out for it. Okay. Does he have anybody in mind?
Nothing on here.
Okay.
The sooner the better, because
Unfortunately.
we might not always agree. It would be one, and then we'd be at a stalemate. So,
Yeah, that's why we need three. Unfortunately, there's nothing in our rules that say that the appointing authority has a timeline.
I double checked that too, so, yeah.
And so maybe when you're visiting, maybe you wanna make a note, cause I'll forget, in the, reviewing of our policies, that we put in there a timeline for the appointing authority to designate. Should be done in less than 60 days. I can't imagine why it should take more than that. If the call goes out at a council meeting, it should be 60 days. Do you agree?
yeah, I was thinking there's something,
There isn't.
there isn't anything.
There's nothing that,
It says they'll review the rule, they'll do a lot of things, but nothing about the actual appointment,
right.
okay?
Yeah, the only thing that I think is somewhere is like the term, you know. like
The terms, right, how they're
That's
staggered,
there, yeah.
but that doesn't,
There's nothing to.
there's gotta be
as
an
far as-
appointment for that.
No.
In fact, let's just go ahead and make that an agenda item to add, a time limit, and you can do any research, Jody, to see if that conflicts with anything, any of the 3 levels of rules that we have to follow. Yeah, the time limit, and what do you think? Is 60 days is, to me, very generous. But I wanna allow a mayor time to solicit the public for that. I could say 45 days, that could be 3 council meetings. And it has nothing to do with the council meeting.
No,
The appointment has nothing to do with the council meeting. He can pick
you can just pick somebody.
anybody as long as there isn't a council meeting.
So actually then, if it was 60, you wouldn't need it until March 10th. It's a long time off.
You're right. 30 days.
30 days.
Yeah, that would be February. Yeah, since he just gave that on January 10th.
Yeah, he had, given one before, but the mayor hadn't accepted it because he really wanted him to be able to see how his family stuff was going.
And how do we
then
know
do that.
this one was accepted?
He did,
How do we know?
because he provided it. He didn't accept that other one. He didn't take the paper from it.
Oh, he didn't physically accept the letter. Got it. I see, because we have this that constitutes acceptance. There isn't a written acceptance.
Why didn't he physically accept it?
Yes.
Yeah, he just didn't.
I mean, if I decided right now
He
that I
wanted him to
wanted
be
to
able to
resign,
see
he
it.
can't stop me.
Yeah, well, wasn't like that, it's just that he was like, giving him time to see if
Yes.
he could,
If there's a way that you could.
like maybe he could miss a couple of meetings and then back, and it's just not gonna work out.
No. It's unfortunate.
So what are we gonna say, 30?
30.
We do have sometimes when in a 30-day period, there's only one council meeting.
It has
No,
nothing to do
Yeah,
with the
but it
council
doesn't
meeting.
have to do, yeah, the mayor can just
Well, the
approach
part
someone in
about
the
putting it
community
out,
and.
the mayor says,
Yeah.
I
seem to like Tuesdays at 1 o'clock, that works.
Yeah, I think that their schedule is like that, let me see if they have it.
Okay, check with the
So there's
senior
other
center's
things that happen
schedule.
more than anything.
The
Can I
7th,
ask a question about a process with the Civil Service Commission?
Well, we talked once about having a, just like at a council meeting,
why don't we finish this point of business and then, talk about it.
okay.
Yeah, he doesn't have the February one out, what, we can just pick a date
And
and
if it's
then,
conflicts, we
and
can.
then I can, yeah,
Yeah.
I will let you know if there's a conflict.
So do you have your calendar?
Yes,
Which one works for you? We could
No,
go
I don't
to-
do that stuff.
February,
well, no, I'm just
When I get
saying
home,
there's
I'll check.
Tuesday, the 18th.
Oh, not the 14th?
Well, that's
that's a Friday,
a Friday.
so,
Tuesday,
a month from
18th.
now, 4 weeks is the February 11th, or you could push it back to the 18th, doesn't matter.
You wanna do the 11th? Let's do the 11th, that's, keeps it short. Short, so 2/11, okay?
I mean,
You
it'll probably
okay
be
with
1 o'clock, but I will double check on that when
I like 1
put it
o'clock.
out here, you see what you okay.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think at a meeting some months ago now, it did come up about providing for a public comment.
Of course, public comment's different than a discussion.
Oh, I see, yeah, well,
But we as commissioners can allow a discussion.
well, I guess comment and then discussion would mean that we would
Yes.
respond back.
Yes.
But we would always have a prerogative to not answer a particular
Correct.
question if it
Absolutely.
wasn't appropriate
Absolutely.
at that time.
Absolutely,
It's the same as city council,
yeah, we have that
entertained
process.
to supply a comment.
You okay? Floor goes to Mr. Beckwith.
I would like to know what the process is. If a city fires, their police chief, what is the process, as far as what the city's obligation is to the chief? I understand there's something called a loudermill process, where the charges, before the person is fired, the charges have to be presented to the person in writing. And that there is a hearing that I think the state provides, or a hearing officer, and also that the person, the police chief would have opportunity to write a rebuttal or concerns. And then the hearing officer makes a judgment, I guess, whether or not to uphold that and say, yeah, there's a justification here, or there's not justification.
We're looking at doing it.
Because
They're so
we're gonna
awesome.
be asking her.
Thank you.
So-
Continue.
Anyway, what's the decision? If the hearing officer decides, yes, the firing is warranted or not warranted, then the person goes back to work. If he decides that it is warranted, then does the chief have an appeal process through Civil Service Commission?
Okay, Jody, does he have the Loudermill hearing correct?
Yes, I believe, I've never, I kind of, what you were stating, the process of that is my understanding is if there's charges brought against an officer, they are read Laudermill, that's one of the processes, I mean, it's pretty spelled out in what the process is. I'm not exactly sure, I mean, I'm not an attorney or anything, but I have heard the verbiage, there's a Laudermill process, in the investigation, that's before an investigation, I believe, goes, and because they need to know what charges they're being faced with. And then, as far as civil service would be involved at the state if there was an officer that was fired, they can appeal that, and then the civil service, that's what their main,
And they don't have to be fired.
Yeah,
Any
yeah.
punishment issued can be
Correct,
appealed by
yeah.
that officer
Anything that they would, yeah.
to
want.
the civil service.
Yes, correct.
A line officer has the option of going with Teamsters, or they can appeal to the civil service. The exempt position of chief would only have the option of course, coming to civil service.
How's that word spelled, please? Watermelon?
Laudr.
L-A-U? D?
ERMILL.
So when he goes, assuming that he goes to that civil service, hearing process, investigation, are the only things that he considered, are the things that he was fired for, that were in the louder mill? Or can the city introduce new concerns at the hearing?
It's very specific to the charge that is made for the termination. The investigation would be strictly limited to that charge. Cannot go outside the scope of that.
And then in the civil service rules, there's a laundry list of,
Powers?
no, I'm looking at like the charges, like what those charges could fall into, and if any of those meet, there's just no recourse for that.
So limited to how the appointing authority described the issue. In other words, how the mayor said it about the chief, that's it. That's the parameters of it.
That's the parameters, and that would be in writing. That's part of the louder mill.
And that is in writing?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
There's no E, I think it's just MILL. But you Google it, you'll see it. Were there any other questions, sir?
That's it.
Will
Oh, it's louder. There it is.
Louder.
Louder.
L-O-U.
Yeah.
Louder.
will the question be captured in the minutes? Okay. All right.
Do we want to make it a standard agenda item for public comment on open meetings?
I don't know why not. It gives
And we have no obligation to respond.
it gives the person the knowledge out in the community that there is this mechanism. They want to come
To be
to this
heard.
meeting, they can be heard, yeah.
I like it, I'm always for hearing from people, whether I like what they have to say or not. I don't think we need an action item on that, do we?
Well, where would it fall? Would it fall
Beginning.
up front,
Beginning
right at the beginning?
or at the end? We can put it anywhere we want. Only the most interested are gonna stick around to the end. Let's put it at the end. Maybe there's something they want to question of, in the order of business.
Next to the end, just before the next meeting,
Yes.
okay?
Why then? Complicates it a little bit, but what is your thinking?
I don't know, the schedule of the next meeting is kind of like the final action.
That could be, the public comment can be the final action, and then just make a motion for
It
adjournment.
doesn't matter, just so the opportunity is
Just the
there.
last item, public comment on our future agendas.
Motion to adjourn?
Seconded. Adjournment by general consensus. Thank you.
So I want to hope that all three, you need to get a house in Silk Lake so you can run for city council.
Oh, no.
I did it. you'd wanna answer, she knows way too much.
No, she's too smart to stay around